Okay, good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be with you all today. I'm so grateful for your attendance, your participation, coming back out here on a Tuesday morning or afternoon, wherever you're Zooming in from. I have to say a very special welcome to our Wazowski family that are joining us. I thought my life was rich and blessed, having one in my life, but we have three on the call today, which is wonderful. So very special welcome to everyone else that is joining us from Madeline's home. So thank you very much. Here we go. There she is. Hi there. Welcome to the call. So today I want to talk about the language that we use when we're approaching people. As I've been talking to people on these ABCs over the last few weeks, something has struck me really clear. And that is, what message are we giving people when we're inviting them to participate in NICAN? What are we offering? The critical thing to look at here is not just what are we offering, but what are people seeking? The objective when we're talking to people and providing them the opportunity to engage with NICAN isn't simply a chance to get what we have. It's to provide them an opportunity to fill a gap in what they need and what they're looking for. But we do know that most people are looking for some similar things. So the question is, we want to be clear in our own minds. Do we know what people are looking for? Do we know what we're really offering them? Are we using the right language? Language has power, it has meaning, it has context, and it's the vehicle by which we make sense of everything in our world, isn't it? So it's really important as we're talking to people and as we're inviting them to participate in ABCs, as we're introducing them to what NICAN is all about, why NICAN exists, why we're doing what we're doing, that we have the right context and framework in our own language and message to make sure that people understand this is something of value. And more importantly than that, not only is it valuable, but it's valuable in the context of my own life, needs and wants. Yeah. And it's interesting because, often we think in the terms of, when we're just coming out of a pandemic, that has been a moment of crisis for many people on multiple platforms or multiple levels, not just with health or wellness, but with emotional well-being, with financial well-being. There's been a lot of knock-on effects here. And sometimes we think when we're in a moment of crisis, that people will focus, if they're having to prioritize, on the things that they need. It kind of makes sense, right? That needs would get prioritized in a moment of crisis, particularly if it's a financial worry that someone is experiencing, that maybe in that prioritizing moment, that people will put front and center their financial priorities. Remarkably, they don't. They actually tend to do the opposite. What they tend to put forward front and center is what they want. What has been referred to sometimes as the sin industries, things like places that sell tobacco, for example, or the gambling establishments, people, companies and organizations that sell, alcohol or have those types of environments that provide comfort, relief, enjoyment, satisfaction, pleasure, those types of things. Those industries tend to thrive during crisis. You'd think, the cost of smoking is quite expensive, or gambling is maybe something I shouldn't be inclined to do at the best of times. But in moments of crisis, people tend to spend their money in those places more versus less. What does that tell us? It tells us that people, when they're stressed, need an outlet. They need some type of release in order for them to get balance. But they're often looking in the wrong places, right? So I want to give us some context here to what we can say, or why we should be saying what we're saying. Okay, so I'm going to jump back in time, not just back over these last couple of years, but just for a little bit of context here, I'm going to jump back, way back in time, to give us a really bigger bird's eye view picture to context of what language should we be using now. So bear with me while I give this context. If we look back to the 1400s, believe it or not, the 1400s really sucked for the Europeans, didn't they? What was going on back then, just as a quick refresh? Well, they had the bubonic plague had come back in full measure, wasn't treating people very kindly. The Roman Empire was in a leadership crisis, wasn't it? They had one emperor had been deposed, another had been murdered, and another one had been deserted by his army. There was a significant leadership crisis in the greatest empire of the world at the time, and certainly in the European region. There was also a split in the Catholic Church, which was creating a very difficult time. Now, why do I share this? Well, what we learn here from this was there was a consequence that came with each of these three things. That crisis with the bubonic plague brought about a new way of looking into science. The leadership crisis created new societies and a new world. And the religious crisis created a new way of considering humanity. And as a consequence, what happened? We saw the birth of the Renaissance period. Renaissance literally meaning rebirth. There was a rebirth that Europe went through that created a new way of looking at things, a new way of looking particularly at science and health, leadership. There was a new development in society and a new world being born. Again, a new way of looking at humanity. Things started to change for the better in a significant way. Now, if we fast forward into our time, what do we see? What we see is as industrialization and consumerism has come into play and done so abundantly, we see that we now enjoy a luxury that is remarkable and unlike anything else ever seen in the history of our people, of mankind. We are now, get this, ladies and gents, we're 50 times wealthier in financial terms than our ancestors going back into the 1820s. 50 times. So let's flip that on its head to get a feel for how our ancestors lived. Imagine being 50 times poorer. What would that be like? Not too great, not too great. But we are now 50 times wealthier. Think of what that does in terms of our standard of living, our choices, the way that we can enjoy life, what we can do, what we can't do, compared to back then. I think that just blows my mind. We also see that we also experience a recession on average every 6 years. We've done that over the past 100 years. Every 6 years we experience a financial recession. Yet remarkably, when it happens, most of the time we are taken by surprise. But we shouldn't be, because we experience one of these every 6 years. However, the good thing is overall, in spite of these recessions where we got at that, we are still going on an upwards trend. We're still 50 times wealthier than our ancestors. We also see, and this is interesting as well, that the East is growing at a faster rate than the West now. Again, I'm talking in the context of the financial economy. But there is a reason why they are doing that. And this is getting to the heart of my message here as to the language we want to look at and explore for what we use when we're speaking to people. They are moving forward at a faster rate because the material dream of the 50s that the West pursued is largely fulfilled. That material dream being that we have the right and ability to own our own home, have 2 cars to get around in, to enjoy travel when we go on holidays, etc. To enjoy fashion and trends and what have you in a way that makes us look good, feel good, and be happy. Now, the East has been always the spiritual economy and has only just recently started pursuing this dream. And as a consequence, they are now moving forwards financially at a much faster rate. They are becoming much greater consumers than what we have been. So what does this mean? It means the West needs a new dream. We are in a limbo state. We're in between dreams. We've achieved this financial success and stability, by and large, en masse. That dream of the 50s has largely been fulfilled and realized, even among some of the poorer communities in our societies. They still can enjoy the fact that they've got their own home, they have a car to move around in, and from time to time we can enjoy overseas travel if we wish. But this is something interesting. What we've discovered as a consequence of getting 50 times wealthier is that above a certain level of GDP, more money does not mean more happiness. That's interesting, that, isn't it? So once we reach a certain level of comfort, we don't necessarily get happier, which challenges us now and makes us want to look for and pursue something else. And here's a crazy statistic. By the year 2030, which is not that far away, 7 years, 2 billion more people are expected to reach the middle classes. That's more than 25% of the world's population. That's based on current growth trends in the financial terms. So this means, what are people going to seek? Now, this, I want to emphasize, this is research that this isn't my language. This isn't just philosophy according to Ben. I'm sharing here research that has been conducted by a number of different expert researchers that have compiled all of this, documented it, published this. I want you to listen to this language and see how this relates to the language that we use in Nikken, to what people are looking for and what we can provide in Nikken. Listen to this and see if there is some synergy here in what people are looking for. They want to look for a greater belief in themselves. Do we offer that in Nikken? They're looking for a place where they can follow their own values. And those values are positive values, by the way. This isn't, in the sense of seeking anarchy or liberty from authority. No, this is the deep-rooted values by which we govern our lives. We want to have more control to express them and to follow them. Do we provide people a chance to do that here in Nikken? They want more independence, not just in financial terms, but in terms of authority. Hierarchy is flatter now, isn't it? If you were in an organization before, or even if you were a consumer before a particular brand or product, what were the chances that you could connect with the CEO of that company, that organization? What if you're at the ground floor of a company that was a big, massive, multi-billion-dollar organization? What were the chances of you speaking with those that were way, way, way above you in the hierarchy? Today, in today's terms, it's as easy as a Twitter comment, isn't it? A tweet. You can suddenly be talking to, the billionaires that rule the world very, very quickly. Hierarchy is flatter now. So people want more voice. They want a greater chance to express themselves. They also want more validation, more chance to contribute, more opportunity to participate, to feel that they can influence the world around them for the better. They want that voice louder, clearer, stronger. Is that something that we can offer people in Nikken? A chance to have greater validation, greater contribution, greater participation, a greater influence, a stronger voice? The answer is yes, isn't it? They also want relationships. They want these relationships not just to exist, but to be improved, to add value. They want to make these relationships count more and to have more meaning. And get this last word, and again, I didn't put this down. This is the researchers that did. They also want well-being. Do we offer people any of this stuff, guys? In what the world is seeking now that they are in between dreams, they've gone through this moment of crisis, they're coming out the other side, they've achieved something wonderful, but now they need something else to pursue. Is what they are now pursuing something that we can offer? It is, isn't it? Now, I want to give you some final context by looking at some different big, global, well-recognized brands and their competitors. I'm going to give two examples for each scenario. One of them is going to be a good example. One is going to be a not so good example. These are mission statements that multi-billion-dollar big brands have established to drive themselves forward to prosper and succeed. And I'm using this as an example of comparison of mission statement. Why is mission statement important? One of the values of a mission statement, and I hope each of you have got one that you can define for how you govern yourself and your business. So a mission statement there. It helps to bring into a really concise, clear way the perspective and meaning behind what you're doing and why. Okay, and that really should, if it's done right, not just be a nice thing that goes on the wall and gets dusty. It should really be something that governs every practice, every behavior, every rule that you establish for how you work and operate, how you interact with all of your customers, all of your business partners, your upline, downline, crossline, your prospects, you name it. It should really govern everything, right? It should be the central principle or value that defines every rule, every practice, and every behavior in your business. With that being said, let's look at these couple of examples. I've got 3 examples, again, each with a comparison or a contrast. See which one you think is best, okay? So here we go. The first one is going to be, I'm going to share Adidas, okay? Because just to back up a little bit here, what we're seeing here is, as a result of all of this change, what people are now looking for, if you were to summarize all of those words and encapsulate it into one, right? You know, when I was talking about meaning, value, contribution, voice, influence, all of that, well-being, relationships, that kind of thing. If you're to encapsulate that into one word, that word would be purpose. What people are looking for now more than anything is purpose. But more importantly, if we were to put a second word with that to give it strength and greater meaning and value, the other word that would align with that would be shared. What people want more than anything is not just purpose, but shared purpose. Again, look at what we're offering here. So that being said, I'm going to give you a couple of mission statements here. The first is Adidas. This is what Adidas said. This is their mission statement. The Adidas Group strives to be the leader in the sporting goods industry, with brands built on a passion for sports and a sporting lifestyle. Now just think for a second, is that good? Is it great? Does that inspire you? What does it do for you? Now, here's Nike's mission statement: to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Now, if you were reading that mission statement, you would see that there was a little asterisk next to the word athlete. And beneath it, you've got an explanation of the word athlete. So I'll read it again and I'll read the explanation, noting that little asterisk next to athlete. To bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Asterisk. If you have a body, you're an athlete. I love that. Okay, now what is it about that statement that grabs you? Okay, because again, we're looking at some key words here. Let's look at another one. Dunkin' Donuts versus Starbucks. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all go out and eat Dunkin' Donuts, right? But I am using their mission statement to highlight a point. So this is Dunkin' Donuts. To make and serve the freshest, most delicious coffee and donuts quickly and courteously in modern, well-merchandised stores. That sounds wonderfully corporate and kind of sterile, doesn't it? Really, really vanilla, that. Now listen to Starbucks and tell me what you think of them. To inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Isn't that interesting? The CEO of Starbucks once said, we're not a coffee company, we're a people company who just happens to make coffee. Isn't that interesting, the way they position that, the way they see themselves? How do you see your business? Are you a wellness company or are you a people company that just happens to help people get well, to be well, to enrich that wellness? Okay, so let's look at one last one. And this one is Pepsi versus Coca-Cola. Pepsi they broke theirs down. They had a mission statement and then a vision statement. This was Pepsi's. Our mission is to be the world's premier consumer products company focused on convenient foods and beverages. Their vision: to continually improve all aspects of the world in which we operate, environment, social, economic, creating a better tomorrow than today. Again, don't you think that sounds very corporate? Do you get a feel for that when you buy a Pepsi product? Yeah, probably not, yeah, because that's something that the company seems to have produced to make themselves feel good about what they do, I think. Coca-Cola, listen to this: to inspire moments of optimism and happiness, to create value and to make a difference. Isn't that interesting? Now, if you look at their ad campaigns for Coca-Cola, do they inspire moments of happiness? That's everything that their brand is about, isn't it? It's interesting that, isn't it? So why do I share this? What language are we trying to use when we're talking to people about Nikken? The key word there with Nike, Starbucks, and Coca-Cola, they all used the same word, the same keyword in their messages. And that was, they all used the word inspire. Their objective was to inspire people in some way. Now, the truth of the matter is, we cannot inspire people without engagement. When we engage with people, we have the greatest capacity to inspire. So I want you to look back now at the language that you've been using. I think it's really important. I want to take a leaf out of the experience that I have when I build websites when I'm promoting my Niken products, when I've got these sales funnels that I've created, when I've done Google ads and that type of thing. And when I've done Facebook posts where I've been boosting messages and what have you on my Facebook page, not my Facebook channel where we're all connected, but my pages that I have where I'm talking directly to consumers, customers about product or about the business. When I've got those pages and I boost something, to get people participating and engaged and interacting. When you're going through these processes in an online way, and all of the online guys will get this because they're doing it all the time as well. It's a really worthwhile lesson just to observe. You have to look very, very specifically at the words that you use. What are your keywords? And you've got keywords that are positive. You also have key negative words, which is interesting. You got the opposite. You don't want to be using certain words, and you want to highlight these to avoid them and to keep away from them. But you really sit down and you've got to question, what are the words that I'm using? And when you've got Google Ads, for example, and you've got maybe one, like an A/B test where you've got one going out in this group and then you've got another one going out, and you're measuring which one performs better, so you can look at why and you can tweak it. It's really quite an art to drill down into the words. Why do I share this? Because what that teaches me when I do that, and I'm not suggesting everyone has to jump onto that online space and play with Google Ads and that kind of thing. What it teaches me is the power of the words that we choose to use. And these apply online and offline. Now, we sit down and write when we're doing our Google Ads and our sales funnels and all that kind of thing online. We write out what are the keywords that we're using, and you craft that message and you get it really slick and really concise because every word counts. Do you do that when you're offline? When you're knowing that you're going to be speaking to someone this week, maybe to this afternoon or tomorrow, do you sit down in advance and say, let's just take a look at this person? Who are they? And I'll give you an example. When I do an ABC, and I've got one lined up for tomorrow with one of my dear friends in the UK, and I always say, as I have done to her, give me a little bit of information. Who am I talking to? Who is this person? Why are they saying yes to you? And why are they deciding to meet with me? What are they looking for? And I ask these questions. What are they looking for? Why are they having conversations with you? Why are they at this point? What do you hope to accomplish when we have this ABC? What am I doing to support you here? What is your ideal outcome that you're wanting to get from this meeting with me tomorrow? And we'll talk about that. We'll discuss it. And they'll send me a little update as to who they are and what they're looking for, what their concerns are, what their challenges are. Why do I want that? Because I want to make sure that the message that I deliver meets that person's unique needs and circumstances. So in advance, I sit down, I make a note of who they are, what these concerns are that they're facing, what their challenges are, what they're looking for. And I start to build a profile. And I start to certainly understand that when we talk, because I ask questions. I don't jump in and start telling them what we're all about. I begin by asking questions. Why did you say yes to meet with me today? You could be doing 100 different things this afternoon, but why did you choose to speak to me today? What brought you here? What are you looking for? And what have they said that's caught your attention? And then I get it from them. So I've got the perspective of my downline. I then also get their perspective directly by asking questions. And I find out, well, what are you looking for? What are your challenges right now? What are you facing? And what do you think I could do today to help you? What do you feel I could provide to meet your needs? How can I help? And as I ask these questions, I get really honest, wonderfully candid feedback. And then from there, I select keywords that I make sure I integrate into my message. So if I understand that maybe there's someone that has been struggling, with their health, but they're also frustrated with their financial circumstances, that they're looking to make some extra money, for example, and they give me the reasons why, because they've been stressed about their bills. They're a provider for a family and they feel keenly their responsibility to provide well for their wife and for their children, for example, and they're feeling vulnerable about that. Or maybe they're going, I'm getting closer to retirement and I'm not quite feeling as secure as I was hoping. Then what am I going to be messaging? What's the language that I'm going to be using? Now I'm going to be starting to talk not just about the chance to make more money, to give them peace of mind. Peace of mind becomes big. I also start talking about how they can strengthen their relationships, not just with their family by being confident in their position as a provider, where they can have stress diminished and hope taking its place in their emotional centers, but also that they've got a chance here to feel greater confidence, greater assurance, a greater sense of aspiration, where dreams can start to flourish again. Because when hope is gone, because I'm feeling worried and stressed financially, then all of a sudden my dreams start to diminish and fall by the wayside too. And when my dreams don't have a place in my life, then all of a sudden my wellness, my emotional well-being starts to really take a hit. So I really want to emphasize these words. So all of this language that we've talked about today, and I want to just go back to some of that vernacular that we used earlier on, because hopefully you've been able to make notes of it, but I'm going to repeat it one more time because these are words that are really, really important. I'm going to reiterate them again. A belief in themselves. That's what people are looking for. First of all, front and center, what are we striving to develop? A shared sense of purpose. Shared meaning we get to partner up and do something together in a community with our friends, with our loved ones, with people that will become our friends and become our loved ones. We get to participate in something where we have a shared sense of purpose for something that is more important than me. That is so important, isn't it? At the same time, we want to strengthen, as we execute this, our belief in ourselves. Let me just tell you something that was really quite startling to me. Dove, the skincare company that does the soaps and the moisturizers and what have you, they did some research, some studies on how women see themselves. Get this. According to the study that they commissioned, 4%, just 4% of women around the world describe themselves as beautiful. I think that's a tragedy. That only 4% of women around the world would look at themselves and say they're beautiful. 72% of young girls that they surveyed said they felt tremendous pressure to be beautiful. And more than half, 54% of women, agreed that when it came to how they look, they were their own worst critic. And this is the worst one of all. 97% in another study found 97% of women admitted that they have negative body thoughts every day, on average, about every 15 minutes. Do we need to make a difference here, guys, in helping people feel a justifiable reason to love themselves, to believe in themselves, to have hope in what they can become and who they can be, to partner up and to get involved in a cause greater than themselves? Absolutely. This gives us a chance to really meaningfully make a difference, to give people a chance to be independent, and to have a greater voice, to have more validation in what they do in their lives and the way that they contribute, and to give them a chance to participate in something meaningful, to be an influence for good, and to have that strong voice be listened to and heard, and to give them a space where, as they start to take care of their financial well-being, they can remove some of that stress and start to invest more meaningful time in improving and adding value to their relationships and to taking better care of themselves. This, ladies and gents, is what we offer people in NECAN. We need to pull that vocabulary into our messaging and let people feel it, not just from the words that we express and say, but feel it in the way that we live our businesses. Madeline, you've raised your hand. Do you want to say something? We'll give her just a sec to unmute her line. Here we are. Madeline, I'll unmute you. How does it? I think I can do that. Oh, I can't unmute you. I think you need to unmute yourself. Do you know how to do that? Okay, so I'll keep chatting, Madeline, while you unmute your line, because I can see you've got your hand raised there. But this, I believe, is really, really critical messaging that we need to keep front and center in our own minds when we talk to people and get the word out. What word are we getting out when we're talking? We need to make that really clear. Sherry said, great timing to be inspired in this way. I'm starting today to create a new team focus, and you give me so much to share. Wonderful, thank you. You know, and Kimball said, you know, Apple headed by Steve Jobs did this in the 2000s with their mission statement. Another great example there. Yeah, Madeline, you've unmuted. Go for it.
Yes, thank you. I apologize. I was trying to reach over here. I thank you for introducing Nancy before she arrived, and I'd like to reintroduce her. So my sister-in-law here, Nancy Zaworski, just turned 90, at a beautiful recovery from a joint replacement, but 24 years ago was my second silver. I wanted to share that with 20,000 of volume in 1 month on the last day of August 31st of winning the first trip to Japan that Sherry Danzig was on with me, and I think Barb Satterwhite may have been there too. Nancy has been in the wellness industry her entire life. She worked in her husband's office, the dental office, at the end of her career, but she was a psychiatric nurse and a nutritionist that studied under one of those guys that helped us develop the pie water with Mr. Masuda, and was a nutritionist like Randy Rolfe is. And she has been such an inspiration to me and such a role model. So here she is 20 years later at age 90, and doing exceptionally well with a total joint replacement. And then my newest customer, a neighbor down the street here, Carol, here's Carol. And the other Mrs. Zaworski, she's wife number one, has a headache. So she's home drinking water with a old body energizer on her head. I was hoping she would still stop in before you were done. But what I wanted to share with you, Ben, and with everybody, being persistent, having these lifelong relationships, staying in touch with people, everything that we've learned about, you really just captured it in a nutshell, as Sherry just said. And I think for all of us, especially those of us here that are tenured, and most of us are, we've learning to undo the old and to learn what we need to, and to go back to what we did in the beginning, all the relationshiping, which Barb Satterwhite certainly excels at. So I want to thank you for doing this very special class today and have an opportunity to be able to recognize Nancy 20 years later.
Wonderful.
As a wellness, yes, as a continuous, voracious wellness home consumer.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madeline. And you know, a big thank you to you, Nancy, for being a source of inspiration for so many years to Madeline. Because
oh, and Madeline, so wait a minute, she's read your book how many times, Nancy?
Oh, endlessly. I repeatedly read the book.
She took the book to recover while she was in rehab. Yes. She said that she could have helped you write it. She's been a student of everything that's in your book.
I love it.
Well, and I think in our own family, we greet each other with what their nickname is. My granddaughter's nickname is Gorgeous. Mine is Beautiful. And that's just how we talk to each other.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, you know, it just shows the power of inspiration, doesn't it? You know, and that really comes from relationships. If you want to know how to make that inspiration come about, it's love people, isn't it? That's where it comes. You know, when we love people and we invest in them, that comes back 1,000-fold and in ways that we just can't always anticipate. So Sherry, you got your hand up as well. Let's.
I simply wanted to say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, Nancy. You don't look 90, honey. So whatever you're doing, I think these products have like stopped the aging process, because I would never guess that you're 90. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. I love it. So everyone, thank you so much. We've taken a few minutes longer than we anticipated, but I hope this has been time well spent for you. I hope you made some notes of what are these key words that we can use to really help connect with people, help them find their shared purpose. And with that, give us a chance to make a better difference in what we're doing in our businesses. So thank you very much. And we'll see you on the first Tuesday of next month. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Ben. Thank you.
Awesome.